This is the RV Advisor Podcast with your host, Tom Alexander. Get all the latest information, trends, advice from experts, stories from the road, and more in the world of recreational vehicles. Now, here's Tom.
Welcome to the RV Advisor Podcast. My name is Tom Alexander, and joining me today from Death by Design, it's Kimberly Paul. Kimberly, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much.
This is very interesting because, what you did was you kind of had a situation in your life that led you into transitioning from a career that was largely in entertainment to something that is incredibly unusual and beneficial. And I'm going to let you tell the story.
Well, yeah, since I was about 12, I always loved script writing and storytelling and imagination. And, my dream was to move to New York City and work in the entertainment business. And, back after I graduated high school and college, I ended up taking a leap of faith and moving to New York City and landed a gig on Saturday Night Live. I started off as an apprentice and ended up working in the talent department, which kind of oversaw booking the host and musical guests. And after a while, CBS Daytime Casting called, and I went over there for a while, and something was missing inside. And after living in New York, decided to take another leap of faith and go back to Raleigh, North Carolina, where I graduated college, Meredith College, and ended up falling in love with this, wonderful guy who was a Garner police officer. He got into the FBI, and he was off to Quantico. And, I had some friends working on a show called Dawson's Creek in Wilmington, and Wilmington, North Carolina, I should say. Yeah. And they were like, come on down. And I was like, hey, do you have beaches down there? And they're like, yes. So, Rob, my boyfriend at the time, headed to Quantico, Virginia, and I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. And, they were on hiatus, and I was having a good summer and thought, recently, back then, my grandmother had recently passed away with breast cancer and was served by hospice. And I thought I would go in and just do some volunteer work. And it ended up that they were hiring a volunteer coordinator, a paid position to oversee their volunteers, and they offered me the job. And so I was thinking, man, can I do this and possibly go back to television and film and just to be around it in Wilmington. And I thought, well, yeah, why not? And I think the joke was on me because that 4 or 5 months became 17 years. And what was crazy is that I've never been surrounded by rich, authentic stories. And I believe if you claim yourself a scriptwriter or a writer or a storyteller, you're always interested and drawn to good stories. And I found myself just captivated by stories that were being told by those facing an imminent death, a death soon to happen. And believe it or not, they were teaching me more about how to live than how to die. Yeah. And so after 17 years, I sort of got fed up with the Medicare benefit that was getting too restrictive and forcing hospices not to fully serve those outside of a benefit. And I thought I could probably help my love of hospice and hospice patients and those facing a serious illness better if I took a step back from a titled paid role and created a podcast around Death by Design. And you can find that just Death by Design podcast, Kimberly C. Paul. And I wanted it to be, really seasoned professionals in palliative and hospice care. But I also wanted the people who were the everyday heroes that you never hear plopped in between those seasoned and, those physicians that have written books and ended up on the New York Times bestseller. And it was really important to me that I focused and educated people that everybody has a story when it comes to losing someone or dealing with grief or just struggling in dealing with our own mortality. And so I started this podcast, and I started writing the book, Bridging the Gap: Life Lessons from the Dying. And you can get that book at deathbydesign.com, my website. And it's a book about the 15 lessons that really inspired me. And I thought that was it. I thought, well, I've done my thing. And some friends of mine, Remy and Tim, they were full-time RVers and really explored the United States with Tim's mom, Miss Norma, in the last year of their life, and wrote Driving Miss Norma. And when Miss Norma, Tim's mom, had passed away, they decided to do the whole Michigan Loop on a boat kind of thing. And they were passing through North Carolina just as my book was coming out. And Tim, one night on the boat, was like, I've got a great idea. You should, buy an RV and go state to state. And I'm like, no way. I can barely drive a Mazda. There's no way. I'm alone. I have a dog. I have a house. And some magical mystery sort of stuff happened. And before I knew it, I was buying an RV and really plotting my 49 driving state tour. Yeah. And I'm in state number 43. And unfortunate during our times right now with the pandemic that's happening, we're going to do the last 6 continental states virtually, and we're heading back east. But yeah, I've been in a 29-foot RV towing my car for almost 2 years, going state to state, telling the stories and hoping and inspiring people to engage with their end of life planning, as well as recognize grief and not be ashamed of grief. And it's okay to grieve, and it's okay that grief doesn't have a timeline, and it's about meeting people where they're at. So yeah. Habit Cheese is one of my big sponsors, so they send cheese wherever I go, and it's just me and my German Shepherd Haven, and it's been an extraordinary community when it comes to full-time RV living. And that's, I will be very frank, it's really brought a lot of hope back, or put hope back into humanity for me, this community of RVers. It's been amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the community, this is a recurring theme on this podcast, is the community of RVers and the kinds of people you meet along the way. And wow, what an amazing story that you just shared with us. I mean, the arc, that's a story arc for a film, and a little something about that as well. No, it's an incredible story. We're going to take a quick break, and we've got more with Kimberly Paul right after these words.
This is the RV Advisor Podcast.
During this time of crisis with the coronavirus pandemic, it's important to help take care of those who are taking care of us, our first responders and healthcare professionals. They're on the front lines fighting this virus, and we need to be there for them. Consider providing your RV for them to stay in while out in the field, a place to retreat and relax while taking care of the sick. You can help in one of 2 ways. Go to rvaca.org and fill out the form to donate your RV temporarily. Or click on the donation page to help with covering the costs of getting RVs to their destinations. These first responders and healthcare providers are giving many hours a day to the fight against COVID-19 and should not be out of pocket while stationed away from home. RVACA.org is a 501c3, so your donation of your RV or financial gifts are tax deductible. Please, now is the time for America to unite in the fight, because together we can win. Visit RVACA.org today.
Don't let a road hazard ruin your fun. Get the #1 rated tire and wheel protection service from the RV Advisor. Starting at just $180 per year, it's affordable and dependable. Visit thervadvisor.com or call 833-229-0911. We're back on the RV Advisor podcast. I'm Tom Alexander. My guest is Kimberly Paul, a former entertainment person in shows like Dawson's Creek and Saturday Night Live, where she worked as and everything really at SNL, right? I mean, you were
I was the sandwich getter, you know. I was that person that was really, you know, an apprentice and was given an opportunity to be on a live set and see Chris Farley and Mike Myers really create some really wonderful things during the mid to late 90s. So everybody, because I've written a book, they automatically assume that I wrote for Saturday Night Live, and that's not true.
Yeah.
But man, I was surrounded by true comedic writers, and to see that process is tattooed in my soul for sure.
Yeah. Was David Spade there when you were there?
You know what? He had just left the year before.
Yeah.
But he did come back and do like a special guest or a host.
Right.
But he had left the year before. Mike Myers was didn't have Dana, but you know the fondest memories is really seeing how that process and seeing how these talented people pull off these long hours and create humor.
Well, and Wednesday night, I know. Wednesday night's the sleepover night, right?
Well, it's actually Thursday.
Oh, Thursday
night.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thursday night and Friday night. Because Thursday night was the sleepover night, and then Friday was just about rehearsals. And what's crazy, and a lot of people don't realize this, is they had a live performance at 8 o'clock on Saturday. So
and the dress rehearsal.
That's the best show to go to because you see all the skits. And then based on the audience reactions, they're cut for the live show.
Gotcha.
When we had a live show, those weeks were pretty intense, and Lord Michaels expected the best. And that's why it's still around.
Yeah, no, listen, 45 years now, 46 years. Incredible. I have a quick David Spade story. Before David Spade was David Spade, and he was just a lowly writer on the show and maybe a background performer. I used to host a radio show called A Day in the Life, where we would interview people for different that did unusual things in life, and so we just happened to come across David Spade, who was a writer that nobody really knew. And we interviewed him, and he was terrific. And we went back and forth, and he informed me, because I also wrote a lot of radio bits. And he said, we've got this apprentice thing. Cool. Yeah, we got this apprentice thing going on. And, Lauren's always got his eye out for apprentice writers. You should send in your stuff. And I did. And I actually got narrowed down to like the last 3 of the group. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get to be an apprentice writer on Saturday Night Live, but it didn't quite pan out. But just knowing that I was that close kind of gave me a little boost in the arm and said, you know what, maybe I could stick in this radio business for a while. But Dave was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Dave was terrific. And then the following year he became David Spade, and then it was like see you later.
Yeah.
But
even like Jay Moore was on there.
Yeah.
Just Norm Macdonald. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, those were the good years," but I mean, we still got flack from the magazines saying that Saturday Night Live has gone downhill, and I think it always gets this bad rap, but
it's an ebb and flow.
Back on it.
Yeah, it's an ebb and flow thing, and ever since the Belushi, Aykroyd, Chase, Gilda Radner days, it's always been compared to that, right? It's like, well, it's not as good as when I remember, because
right. But I say, just thinking about Phil Hartman and Chris Farley, and Phil, you're talking about people who have faced their own end of life.
Yes.
So it's really interesting that how no matter where you find yourself, whether it's in the entertainment business or driving an RV or in hospice care, I tell this when I'm on the road talking about end of life, that the house always wins.
Yeah.
Don't bet against it, because we all are going to face end of life. But the question is, when we get to the end, will we look back on our life and wish we would have lived? And so I think the more I talk about my mortality, the more it forces me to fully live, to not wait to make decisions. And I believe, RV full time during this book tour has been one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and it's because of the community, the RV community. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been some trials and tribulations on the road, but I think that's just life. No matter where you are, there are going to be good days and bad days. And I will say it's been a really soul awakening journey for me, going state to state and in interacting with the community, the RV community, as well as my regular kind of book signings. And it's amazing because my RV's wrapped like a car with, death logos on it. So I'm like pulling into an RV park at Friday and everybody's cracking open not everybody, but some people are cracking open a brewski, and I ride by and it says, you're going to die. And people are like, what the hell's going on? and people will come over and be like, what are you doing? And suddenly you're around a campfire and talking about life and those who we've lost that have meant so much to us, and crying. And then people climb the back ladder of my RV and write a note to someone that meant a lot to them. Yeah. And so I have about 500 to 600 names on top of my RV roof that I've collected through this 43-state journey so far. And it's about connection. That's the one thing we were all born to do is connect. And I believe the RV community is really, really good at connecting, because sometimes we don't have a lot of time to connect, but when we do connect, the depth of how we connect is really rich. And I love that.
We don't know how long this is going to go on with our current global pandemic. But what it's doing is it is making people aware, most people, I hope, of their own mortality. It's by separating us, we're somehow getting closer. We're spending more time, maybe having those contemplative moments. We're thinking about a lot of things, taking account, personal inventory, however you want to describe it. But we're with our families, whoever we're with, or maybe we're just by ourselves. It's a moment for us to maybe, as a world, think about really the important things, because we all get caught up in our own lives, our work. Sometimes, and sometimes those jobs are things we don't necessarily like to do, but they put food on the table. And then sometimes we get sidelined by things that are maybe not so important, distractions, whatever they are. Now we sort of have time to think about those things. And like I said, more in tune with, hey, you know what? Life is precious, and we've only got so much time, each of us, and we're aware of it. So that said, it's a long way to go to get to the main point, which is what you do is help people and raise awareness of, you say, a life well lived and a life passing. I'm paraphrasing, but right. Passing well too, dying well, living well, dying well. Boy, what a great approach, a great perspective into all that.
Yeah, it's really hard to have a stamp on a book tour called Live Well, Die Well. Have I lived well every day on the road? No. But when you think about doing it every day, and this is what you're faced with, mm-hmm. I think you have certain awareness. And this is what I think we are gifted during this time of uncertain times, is that we are now realizing that face-to-face connection is so freaking important. I mean, but we can, and I believe this could be social media's finest hour, because I just watched the Indigo Girls concert yesterday mm-hmm. on Facebook, and I think we can now utilize technology that we have in a more positive way. It's not about who we voted for in the last election. It's like, oh my God, I just need a friendly face. I just need positivity. I just want to chat with someone and connect with someone. And we're using the technology that we have been gifted with to do that. Right. So it's just amazing to see the positive turn. But I will also say this, because I've felt fear and I've seen panic, and I've forgotten that fear and panic are two different emotions. Yeah. And fear is a good emotion because it tells you, let's not walk in the middle of the street because I might get killed. Panic is an emotional response that makes us a little bit more apt to face some extreme things, because if we panic in the midst of something, it's dangerous for us.
Yeah.
But fear is a good emotion, and I think that comes with just thinking about our death or a severe diagnosis. You know, are we afraid to all die? Yes, because we're only going to do it once, and it's not like we can. It's not like driving a car that after a while the car drives itself because you're so used to going from point A to point B, and so it is. So I try to bring it out of the closet, paint it with some color because it's not a black and white thing, and inspire people to be like, how do you want to be remembered? And then ask the question, are you living your life the way you want to be remembered? And the majority of people, including myself, most likely is going to go say no. And then how can we possibly change that to the more positive way? And I will say, I have learned so many life lessons on this journey within RV Park. The kindness of 18-wheelers who a compartment comes open on I-95, and they're like, hey, they're signaling to me, going 70 miles per hour, saying, hey, you've got something going on, pull over. I mean, it's just the humanity of it. And I wish everyone could experience that, but this is the point. Everyone can. And how do we, in this uncertain time, start realizing that being human is everything we have in common?
As the filmmaker Fellini once said, and again, I'm paraphrasing a bit, every film is like a journey. It's like no other, and hopefully you learn something from it along the way. And that's, that's a good attitude to have. And as long as we're all still students, no matter what we do, we're going to grow.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen, Kimberly Paul, we really, really appreciate your time. We appreciate your mission and the inspiration you gave us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest. And anybody out there on the road, if you see my RV, give me a beep. So many of you have taken pictures as you passed me and asked me where I was speaking. And it's those little things that make me totally feel, even though I am alone with my dog on this tour, that I'm never truly alone. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And one more time, the website.
Yeah, deathbydesign.com, and you can check out the tour. There's a separate landing page within deathbydesign.com, but you can always look up livewelldiewelltour.com, and the podcast is there, the book is there, the information about the tour is there, and give me a shout out.
Kimberly Paul, Death by Design, has been our guest. Kimberly, thanks again. This is the RV Advisor Podcast. My name is Tom Alexander. We thank you for listening. So long, everybody.
You've been listening to the RV Advisor Podcast with Tom Alexander. This podcast is produced in association with Studio Alpha and Alexander Productions in Miami. Visit thervadvisor.com for more.